Hey, it's Thursday, November 12th. I always have to look at the calendar. I should probably do that before I start speaking. And you're at Litvak Leadership Live with my special guest, Joe Frankie. Joe Frankie is a LinkedIn expert among many things. But Joe is a West Point graduate, a combat veteran, a retired colonel, an award-winning author, and he knows the power of team. How are you today, Joe?
Hey, as we would say in the Army, I'm fit to fight. Let's go.
Fit to fight. Okay. I like that. I was telling Joe before we started about an old friend of mine, former colleague, a gentleman named Bob Corkin. So if anyone is watching this and knows Colonel Bob, I was telling Joe about Bob's favorite phrase. It's not good news. It's not bad news. It's just news. And Joe seemed to like that. So I'm thinking maybe it's a colonel thing that guys in the military look at that the same way. Is it a colonel thing?
Well, no, I mean, but the other thing we say is when somebody brings you bad news, don't shoot the messenger, or else they'll never bring you the real news. And I think that's what Bob was getting at is you really want the news.
You really want the news. So, and you don't react, you respond.
Right.
That's another thing that I learned because I could have been reactionary. Bob was a great mentor to me. All right. So let's get into it. I know you're a mentor and a coach. You untangle and deliver new and complex projects. But one thing that jumped out at me as I was looking at your book, because you're an award-winning author of The 5-Minute Drill, LinkedIn, The 5-Minute Drill. And you quote some different people. One of the quotes that jumped out at me, which makes sense, but nonetheless, I'd still like to talk about it, is from Dr. Stephen Covey. Begin with the end in mind. Why is that so important?
I see so many people, like when they work on their LinkedIn profile, they just dive into it and just start, okay, I need to add this, I need to add that. And there is just so much opportunity to take 2 steps back, organize, what is it you want to accomplish? In other words, where are you at right now? Where is it that you want to go? And if you know those 2 places and can define that, then there's a way to build a LinkedIn bridge to get you from where you are to where you want to go. Now, in that LinkedIn bridge, we might find like, okay, well, you need this piece of education. You need this course. If you want to be considered, a world-class project manager, you probably need your PMP or a certification recognized by, third parties. And so out of that, you can organize yourself for the kinds of content that you need to populate to help you get from where you are to where you want to go.
So when you first meet with a potential client, what do you bring them through to analyze and assess them?
Well, first of all, a lot of them already have a LinkedIn profile. Okay. And then a lot of them have been referred by other people to me. Right. So they come, hey, Sean, I talked to Sean and he said to get with you. And then we take a look at, hey, what is it that you want to accomplish? And usually the answer comes back, Joe, I'm out of a job. I need to land something. Joe, I'm in a job, but, I don't see any growth for me, but, maybe I need to make a lateral move someplace else. Joe, I need to pivot. The oil and gas sector, I'm an engineer, but I think I can pivot into aerospace or something like that. So depending on what they're trying to do, focus is the kind of discussion we're having. Some people want to get promoted in the job that they're in. And believe it or not, there's ways to merchandise yourself so that, that can be recognized. Other people have entrepreneurial talent and they want to start merchandising what they're bringing to the table as an entrepreneur, even though they may be working full-time for, a company.
So when you say merchandise yourself, because it's funny, I've heard of people talk about promoting themselves. I've heard of people talking about marketing themselves, but you are very focused on the word merchandise. Can
Well,
you
so
tell us the difference between that and marketing?
well, and that's it. Probably just me, but okay, I'm an executive recruiter, so I'm in LinkedIn all the time, and we're doing searches and all that kind of stuff. But I use the word merchandise because if you can't measure your production,
Okay.
then you're just another good guy or good gal. That did outstanding leader, does great things, humma humma humma, but okay, if you're an outstanding leader, measured by what? Did you make money? Did you save money? Did you increase efficiency? Did you reduce man hours? What are the KPI metrics in your field
Mm-hmm.
that, what did you do? And so if you just have the general stuff, eventually, if you're going to be working with a recruiter, I mean, they're going to be asking all these deep questions to get all that stuff, because in order to merchandise you
Right.
to a client, I got to sell you.
Yeah.
In order to sell you, I have some sort of metrics. They're both qualitative and quantitative.
Okay.
So I don't think you can escape that.
So when you're assessing someone, what kind of metrics are you looking at to determine where to start with them?
Well, it just, when I start with them, if what they're looking for is LinkedIn help, we start with a LinkedIn profile, and we
Okay.
make an assessment of where they're at and really where they want to go. And believe it or not, I have more than a few people that say, well, I'm not sure where I want to go. Well, we need to spend more time on where you want to go because if you really don't know where you want to go, then any path you take will get you there.
Oh, absolutely. You're going to
So,
get somewhere. It's a matter of who's going to direct it.
so that's why I think that Stephen Covey quote is so critical. I mean, really start out with the end in mind. When you think about it, if you go shopping, I mean, your mind starts out with the end of the mind. Okay. First place I'm going to come to is Home Depot. So I'm going to pick up the light bulbs, the special light bulbs there. And then, the next stop is Kroger or whatever. I mean, you organize with the end in mind because you don't want to spend all day out there on your chores. You'd like to spend the minimum amount of time. So the same is true of your career. I've had young lieutenants ask me, well, okay, what does it take to be a chief of staff of the Army? And I said, okay, get a big piece of paper here and we can lay out all the things you got to do to be a chief of staff of the Army. But
Right.
just remember, in the end, it's only one slot, and you need to be competitive at that particular time above everybody else. And at the same token, I say, if you're a lieutenant in the Army, your goal should be to be the chief of staff of the Army, and that should guide your behavior, right? To
Absolutely.
all the time, you're 100% all in. Now, when you decide to do something else, you're still 100% all in till you exit stage left and start something else. And that will continue to prepare an individual, no matter what they're doing, as long as they're giving all out and thinking through, hey, where am I going? What is it I want to accomplish? Am I on that path? And
Yeah.
the benefit about being 68 years old and kind of through on my fourth career now, third career after the military.
Right.
You've seen a lot of things, and you've done a lot of things, and so this, to me, what I'm doing now, and the reason Lori and I wrote the book, it's just an extension of all the leadership experience that I had in the Army, because all I did was develop people. You developed non-commissioned officers, and you developed officers for their next promotion, their next assignment, made sure that they got competitive projects so they'd be considered for, command selection.
So looking at your Einstein quote, I mean, if anything says paying forward, it's this quote. 100 times a day, I reminded myself that my inner and outer life are based on the labors of others, living and dead, and that I must exert myself in order to give in the same measure as I have received. I mean, one, I don't know a lot about Einstein, but I'm somewhat surprised that came out of his mouth. Two, what a giving kind of philosophy that is. So is that expounded on throughout the book?
Well, I think so. I mean, we're trying to help people see things in a new and different way as best we can,
Mm-hmm.
and also show them some things that they may not see in regard to that. For for example, I mean, LinkedIn. Most people use it like the front page of a newspaper, and really, they're just using the front page,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't realize that really LinkedIn is a full newspaper. It's got pages 2 through 9. It's got a comic section. It's got a sports section, an op-ed section, and there's all these other sections that people, can use if they want to. And so you can take things that are important to you and amplify them from other locations on LinkedIn. And so we try to explain not how to do that in the book, but show you that it's there,
Right.
so that you can start thinking that out.
That makes great sense. So, so you talked about a lot of people come to you and really don't know where they want to go. It's Bruce has a great quote here. If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. Yogi Berra. And
That's Yogi's got some good ones, and they seem extremely simple, but they're on the mark.
So you talk a lot about people untangling opportunities and untangling their vision. I mean, how do you help, someone, because their LinkedIn profile really needs to promote them for what they want to do. So how have you helped them before they even get into the profile, untangle what their vision is for themselves?
Well, I always start out with, hey, what is your mission or goal? And it's what we mentioned before. People either want to land a new job, they're out of work and want to land something. They want to pivot, change sectors, get promoted, those type of things. And those require slightly different strategies,
Mm-hmm.
based on where you want to go. That's why the end in mind is so important up front, because, before you, in my view, before you start doing that, you got to think through this. If not, do you want to build a second story and decide that the foundation wasn't put in right?
Yeah, exactly.
So really, I look at it from the standpoint of, let's make sure we got the foundation right. And if we got the foundation right, then, it's unlimited the amount of stories you want to put, on it. But if you don't have the foundation right, then you there's no shortcuts here. You'll end up doing the whole thing, if you know what I'm saying.
So when you sit down with a prospective client, or really not even a prospective client, but a client, and you're putting together a planning session with them, give us a high level view as to what that looks like.
Well, the high level view is it takes about 2.5 hours, on the first session. And the first hour is spent going through a number of things to turn their head inside out, so that they see the world in a different way.
Okay.
And so once then they see the world in a different way, in my view, then we get into the mechanics of LinkedIn to apply their new view of the world. And I kind of liken it to, fishing, right?
Yeah.
You and I might like a good filet mignon steak, right?
Right. I do.
Okay. So if we take a piece of our filet mignon and go out and we're going to fish with it, we're probably not going to have much luck.
Not going to have any luck.
So if you want to catch a fish, then you have to start out with the end in mind. Do you want bass? Do you want trout? And then what do trout and bass like? It's
Okay.
called bait, right? And you
Yeah.
want to put the right bait out there.
Got to put the right kind of bait there. Absolutely.
Right. So now think of that mindset. Okay, I like filet mignon, so that's kind of what I'm going to fish with. And what we're trying to do is give you a different mindset so you kind of see it from the fish's point of view. And so once you know what kind of fish you want, then you know what kind of bait you need to hang on your LinkedIn profile.
Okay. That makes
So that's
sense.
why you start out with the end in mind, and you've got, and when this occurs, then they see the world like recruiters see the world. Okay, we're out there trying to find people to fulfill our clients' needs, right?
Right.
Okay, well then why wouldn't you use some knowledge to know what we're looking for and provide it to us? Because the old way was about 7 years ago. Hey, Sean's probably done that. Let me give him a call. Today, hey, next gal, next person.
Oh yeah.
Go to the next profile.
Next.
Because the client wants their problem solved as fast as possible, and it's all about satisfying the client. And as long as you can find what you need, right? Then, so I always tell people, I say, you're voluntarily taking a seat at the back of the bus. Do you want to be at the front of the bus or the back of the bus? It's your choice.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. If you want to be at the front of the bus, then it involves some work on your part. There are no shortcuts in this stuff. If you want a really good profile and you want to build one, it requires structure and work. And people will say, well, how does LinkedIn figure in all this? And I said, well, okay, you're out of a job right here. So this is the beginning of the funnel. You've entered the non-job funnel. And then at the end of the funnel is that place where you get a job, right?
Right.
And I said, well, what will LinkedIn do for me? I said, it's the grease in the funnel. How long do you want to be in? How long do you want to be in that funnel?
I mean, because want ads in the paper don't exist anymore.
No, I mean, if you looked at how, when I got out of the military in 2004, yeah, I mean, I was reading, I was getting the big newspapers from Houston, Dallas, all of that kind of stuff, because a lot of the stuff was, still in the newspaper.
Right.
Because
now it's this thin.
Yeah.
There's nothing to it. And that's the whole picture with the comics and the ads.
And then LinkedIn is making tools for all these employers too, right? Because if you've applied to something, you get this note back that says, okay, we've compared your LinkedIn profile against this position and you're at the 40% mark,
Yeah.
Okay. So what is that telling you? Well, could I be at the top 20% mark if I had more of the right stuff in it?
Oh, that makes great sense. Absolutely.
So an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
So when people are going through this process, do you recommend that they seek out their friends and family for encouragement, or should they keep it to a very small group?
I think everybody, I mean, if you're seeking something, right? Say you're out of a job, and a lot of people are, given the times that we're in.
Right.
I think you need to get all the support that you can get. I mean, there's nothing wrong with support. What I'm advocating is, hey, get some good advice, on what and how to do it. I think our book, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life with Lori Ruff, which is my co-author, is write a 1-hour book. I mean, it was tough. There's 177 pages of content on the cutting room floor.
Okay.
But our goal was, we wanted you to be able to get on an airplane, read the book, and internalize it in one flight.
Okay. That's a good goal.
And then at the front of the book, we gave you the bottom line up front. Here's the 5-minute drill checklist. By page 3, you got it. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Then the rest of it is all about, hey, the reasons why and the hows, and that I think are important, because if you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it's important. For example, with most of the military people, I said, look, you first learn how to use LinkedIn. You kind of got a sword up here. It's two-handed. You can't wield it very well, and it's pretty damn heavy. Okay.
Right.
So then as you get a little bit better with LinkedIn, you can use it kind of like a saber, and all of this kind of stuff. And where you want to be able to get is where you can use it like a scalpel and get to the exact person that is the hiring manager, for that particular job, establish a relationship and all that kind of stuff. And what happens is you have people that want to use the sword to do heart surgery.
Oh, that's never good.
That's never good.
That's never good. No.
So to me, LinkedIn requires, a little bit of study and a little bit of discipline if you're going to wield it correctly. And but when I first got into it, I was kind of wielding it like a sword and everything else. And that's why, but that was before anybody was writing any books on it. There's a lot of information. You can get a lot of information online. And, we even in the back of our 5-minute drill book, we put some checklists back there, to kind of help the person, as a guide.
So when you look at Bob Bowden's quote that you have in the book, the goal of professional networking should be nurturing your network to develop your career, business, or professional objectives, or advancing your community, which comes back to you when your need is indeed greatest in the full circle of reciprocity. So do you advocate, because I do, that people should have community involvement as part of their career, as part of a lifestyle?
I believe so. I mean, I belong to a number of communities, and I volunteer, at Bunker Labs, where we've got military veterans becoming entrepreneurs, and Combined Arms here in Houston that, supports veterans that are needing assistance. So in those communities, I mean, it all comes back to you. I mean, I didn't get here to where I am today by myself. I mean, a lot of people took some risks, and they underwrote, mistakes I made, just like I did in the military, as long as you didn't lie, cheat, steal, or something like that, then, hey, if you made a mistake, you didn't hurt anybody, let's learn from it and move on.
So, and it's interesting because so many people now are just so me focused and not necessarily looking at giving back to the community. I think it's very refreshing that your book has a focus like that. Looking further, so what was the why behind writing the book? Because you've been coaching people, you've been training people, and then you got together with Lori and wrote this book. What's the story behind the catalyst of that?
The catalyst is this is how I met Lori.
All right.
I was using her book. So the first I called her up one day. I finally found a way to get a phone number, and I called her up and I said, "Hey, I'm Joe Frankie, and I've sold 300 of your books." I said, "I want a piece of the rock." And she started laughing. She said, "Who are you? And what do you want? Why are you selling my books?" And I said, "I use your book a lot as the best primer and body of knowledge of LinkedIn."
Oh, wow.
Okay, so that book, as far as I'm concerned, it's called Rock the World with LinkedIn version 2.1. She and Mike O'Neill wrote that book. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the primer. Okay, what is the headline? What is the summary? What is the about section? And it gives you a good flavor. And then in the back, they've got some handy, helpful things like, hey, the volunteer section's got 2,000 characters, all these kind of things where people are first looking at, I wonder how big this is. And you find out how big it is when it starts truncating your stuff, right? So from that aspect, I thought that was a helpful book. And she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm doing a lot of coaching." He said, "Oh, you're doing coaching? Why don't you doing a lot of coaching in the military?" He says, "Yeah." And I said, "Why don't you write a book?" So we said, "Hey, let's do it." And so through things like Google, we were both Saturday mornings for a long time from 10 to 12. We met and we would work on the book using kind of Google Docs where we're both editing and working on stuff and that kind of things. And so, years before that, I mean, you can think about how that would be done, but it was pretty handy and a way to do it. But the real reason behind it was I felt, I was in the executive search business at that time, and I just saw so many people not merchandising themselves. In other words, based on my age and experience working with written files, Army files, efficiency reports, command boards, all flight evaluation boards, all those kind of things, looking at written documents. I'm looking at people's resumes and LinkedIn profiles and say, and I know the people, and, I could ask them questions. I said, well, tell me the most favorite thing you enjoyed getting done in this particular job. And they could whop off a story, that was amazing, saved a bunch of money, all that kind of stuff. And I said, how come it's not on this profile?
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't it in your resume? Oh, well, I'll talk about it in the interview. And what people need to understand today is your LinkedIn profile is interviewing for you 24/7, 365.
Indeed, it is.
Okay. And so, well, you say, well, I didn't put that in there. They don't know that about me. You're right. Next person. It's a business, right? I mean, the search business, whether you're internal to HR or whatever, hey, everybody's trying to, get things done as quickly and as efficiently as possible. The other reason that a LinkedIn profile is really important is the kind of jobs that you need, that aren't posted anymore.
Right.
The hidden job market. Okay, so that's being given to recruiters like me or internal recruiters or contingency recruiters or whatever. And so they're out here looking for that person. And the reason they're doing that is if the company does that, then they're not being flooded with 1,000 resumes where, the only qualification, for this project manager is the guy, is mowing yards. He's really not qualified, but they've got to go through that. They got to give a response. I mean, so
and even with keyword searches, it still takes time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the way that the recruiting world does it is, hey, we put 10 search words up there in that search box and away we go. And then, hey, if that's not who we want, we vary it just like you would a Google search to get what you're wanting. And then I show a lot of people and say, well, I think I got a good LinkedIn profile. And I said, but you came up 365 out of 400. I'm probably going through the top 40.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're in a content war with your peers.
You are.
So, I mean, more content is better, and compelling content I define as qualitative, quantitative metrics that measure your production.
I'm writing that down. I like that. So let me ask you, because you brought it up earlier, you're 68 years old and you have completely embraced LinkedIn. What advice do you have for the older job seekers out there, the more seasoned citizens, and with specific to embracing technology?
Well, let me tell you a story. I had an 84-year-old contact me, wanted to get back in the workforce. Okay. And so he says, Joe, can you introduce me around? I said, well, let me see your resume. And well, it's kind of old, because I've been out of work for years. And I said, well, don't worry about it. Let's go to your LinkedIn profile. He said, well, I don't have one of those. And I said, okay, well, let's sit down and talk. I mean, what do you bring to the table? So, I mean, he told me, and I mean, naturally, he brought a lot to the table. And I said,
Mhm.
the only way that anybody's going to look at you is if you get this out here. You know, you're going to have to build a world-class LinkedIn profile and populate all this content. And so it didn't happen overnight. You know,
No.
a lot of homework to do, but you know, he got it together. And so what happened is naturally he got a call to solve a problem. Because on a LinkedIn profile, you can tell story after story after story that you solve problems. And really what recruiters are looking for are people that solve problems.
Mhm.
We take a position specification, job description, right? And on there is going to be pain points. I mean, big pain points because they're mentioned more than once. You know, hey, nobody just says, "Hey, Joe, get me a chief financial officer." I mean, they want a chief financial officer that has done like 4 mergers and acquisitions, or you know, you can tell where the pain is. Okay,
Absolutely.
so and if you're a person that has solved all these problems and you can tell those stories, what happens is, you know, now you have a chance of being found. If you can be found, somebody can contact you. And then in that content, you can decide whether, hey, you know, you caught a fish. Are you going to throw it back in the lake or are you going to take it home and eat it? I mean, that's what it boils down to. And
Absolutely.
so if you're interested in that, what will happen is somebody will say, the recruiter or whoever's contacting you, would you take a look at the position specification or the job description? And once you get that, then you determine, hey, I'm in or out. And once you get a position specification, then you take 3 to 5 blank pieces of paper and you write a resume against that position specification.
Mhm.
Not, hey, let me take my general resume and give it to you.
Got
No,
to get specific.
you got to get specific because this is what they want to know about you. What do you know in relation to this? Answer the questions, please. Okay. And if you do that, you'll get a very competitive resume. And oh, by the way, they're going to run it through a machine anyway to see if your words are matching directly up to theirs. So, you know, there's no shortcuts in this. All of it involves work. And if you do good work, you know, you're going to get rewarded.
That's awesome. You're absolutely right. So amazingly, we have gone over 30 minutes already. We're at 32 minutes and 40 seconds. So in the final couple minutes that we have left, when people look back at this video and they say, boy, I really took this away from Joe at the very end when he said, go.
If it's not on your LinkedIn profile, you never, ever, ever did it in your life.
That's great. that is so concise and to the point. I can't add anything to it. That's wonderful. Joe, thank you so much for being my guest today. You have years of wisdom, pearls of wisdom, and I've truly enjoyed talking to you. And I know everyone that's watched this live and will watch the replay will get some great knowledge from you. Thank you for being my guest.
Oh, Sean, this was a blast. We ought to do it more often.
Well, you know, we may be back. Maybe we'll have a special LinkedIn panel, and I'll get various LinkedIn experts like yourself. I had Brent Tillman on about 2 weeks ago. It'd be interesting to hear you guys have a conversation about LinkedIn. But look, everyone, that's the show. We're going to be back tomorrow at the same time, 3 o'clock, Litvak Leadership Live, 3 o'clock Eastern. Be blessed. Have a great day.